Welcome to Tuesday Newsday, your #1 resource for the entire week's worth of VR news. And you know what? Today is a good day. I think this is probably one of the most positive and exciting weeks of VR news we've had in a long time, including some breaking news. Full body tracking legit just got way easier and way better for everyone, including Quest users. And I get to show you today exactly how. Plus, we got a slew of Quest updates, including a massive hand tracking upgrade, all while Meta cracks down on privacy and modding of specific games. We got all that and so much more, but first, the Quest 3 is on its way in just a couple months, and if you want one day one, I have partnered up with Amaze VR with this video to give one away to the VR community. The links will be down below for after the video. It's not time sensitive or anything, but I'm doing this because Amaze VR needs a bit of help to get out of App Lab, and it's a totally free app to download. But it's basically a volumetric capture music experience app that puts you in these crazy environments with the performers. There's really no good way to show you on a flat screen what it looks like in headset, but it's quite the audio-visual experience, and you need to check it out. It's worth your time. I don't normally do sponsor segments for anything VR related, but a free Quest 3 and a free VR app that actually do something really cool. I mean, you could practically reach out and touch their hands as they're dancing in front of you. It's crazy. So you know what? I can't really complain here. Anyways, it's on Steam VR and App Lab right now, so go try it out. But now it's time we get into this crazy week of VR news. So it just boggles my mind how many updates the Quest platform has gotten over time. And while most of them have been pretty small quality of life improvements, every now and then we get something massive, and this is, in my opinion, one of those massive moments. But before we get to the big one, let's talk about V56 itself, because it was just announced that huge improvements are coming to hand tracking across Quest 2, Pro, and eventually 3, with the introduction of hand tracking 2.2, reducing latency up to 40% during typical usage and 70% during fast movement, also including a new tracking mode open to developers through the SDK called Fast Motion Mode, allowing, for example, fitness and rhythm games to have a significantly quicker hand tracking quality. And after trying it out myself, this is by far the best that hand tracking has ever been. There's always been just enough latency that your virtual hands feel really out of sync with your real hands. It's usable, but you know, it feels weird. But with this update, and in particular fast motion, it feels significantly better. Now, V56 also brings a few other updates as well that I've talked about, like swipe typing, global local dimming on Quest Pro, auto power on for updates, button remapping. All in all, it's a really solid update, but that's not the thing that I'm really excited about. I am pumped for multimodal support, which is probably one of the most exciting updates that standalone VR has gotten in years, honestly. And with multimodal, developers can now build applications that allow you to use hand tracking and controllers at the same time. And that may not sound like a massive deal, but I'd argue that this, in conjunction with the hand tracking 2.2 updates, standalone VR's base usability has just grown to a whole new level. And really, the multimodal functionality doesn't make hand tracking or controller tracking any better, it creates something totally new. Of course, the pass off between the two tracking types will be way easier, which is awesome, but I think the most interesting thing here is the true hybrid nature of this. From games being able to use one controller and a hand for input, or being able to directly touch a panel with your fingers while using the controllers, or even better, essentially having finger tracking on a controller like the Valve Index's Knuckles, which is one of the main reasons why I've used the Knuckles for so long. I just love finger tracking, but here we go. Quest is getting something very similar, maybe even better in some ways. But of course, there are a few caveats. As of now, unfortunately, the multimodal support is not coming to Quest 2. Maybe in the future, but it was not listed anywhere. Right now, it's only an experimental option for the Quest Pro and will be a launch feature of the Quest 3. And on top of that, it's not like every game is going to instantly support this. It's a per app basis, meaning developers have to build for it or update their game to support it. But still, updates like this get me so excited because this is a huge improvement into how we interact with VR. And I gotta say, I've been really impressed with standalone VR and its improvements recently. And I don't want to offend any of my PC VR evangelists out there. Believe me, I get you guys, I love Steam VR, but standalone right now just feels so much fresher than anything else in VR at this moment. And especially with the Quest 3 significantly better processor on the way, standalone is kind of slowly shifting from a watered down VR experience to to one of the best types of VR experiences. The only thing it's really missing to convince me is really good full body tracking, which brings me to one of the most exciting VR things I've messed with this entire year. And I'm excited to say with 100% certainty that we finally have a good full body tracking solution that is easy and works with Quest in standalone and in PC VR. No other equipment required except for a phone, I guess. So a few weeks ago, I made a video on Sony's new full body tracking system, Mocopi. Now, I definitely recommend you watch that video after this if you're interested. It's a full review going over the whole product, but there's been a massive change since that video, and this is a huge update that nobody's talked about yet. So in that video, my consensus was that Mocopi, a $450 IMU-based full body tracking system, is really cool and it's really good for cheap motion capture, but for VR purposes, it was pretty terrible. The only way I could get it to work was by converting them to slime trackers through Linux, which was a massive pain and something I would never expect anybody to do. And I essentially left a negative review with some positive criticism. And well, it turns out Sony actually saw the video and within a week pushed a beta update addressing every single problem I had with them. So Mocopi's biggest issue before was its redundant tracking points for VR purposes, essentially limiting you to only 3 lower body IMUs, which just doesn't look very good. In this beta update, however, you're now able to move the wrist trackers to your knees, just like how I did with the Mo Slime hack, just officially with the app now. And this makes such a world of difference. With this one change, Mocopi is without a doubt some of the best full body tracking I've ever seen that isn't base station tracking. There's still quite a bit of latency and it's not perfect, but we went from unusable to pretty darn good. And you can see here just how much of an improvement it is. I can now sit down, lay down, dance around, and it's all tracked pretty well. And I think what's really got me excited is how easy it was to set up. Like, it literally takes 2 minutes, just calibrate the trackers on the phone, enter my PC or Quest 2's IP address, and press a button to connect through OSC, and bam, decent full body tracking anywhere on anything. And I think if you've been following the full body tracking world or all the devices, you know how big of a deal this is. And so after talking with Sony about this update, they stated that it's all still in the works. It's a beta essentially, and this version of the software won't be coming until sometime in Q4 of this year. So unfortunately, if you buy Mocopi now, you might not get the software update for a while. I'm not entirely sure. And the reason they gave me is that they wanted to polish up the features and improve on what they have now before releasing it to the public. But this does really show that Sony cares about supporting Mocopi and its VR usage and actually took criticism and vastly improved their product afterwards, which is something I am not used to. I dish out a lot of criticism on VR products and rarely do I ever see any sort of changes. So cheers, Sony. And in a future video, I will certainly be comparing this versus Slime versus Hartora versus Vive trackers because everything just got a whole lot more interesting. But now it's time for a meme break. So I think one of the coolest implementations of AI into VR stuff is adding AI to NPCs. Instantly, the whole VR world becomes way more immersive as you can have full conversations with characters of a world. And well, Skyrim VR just got a huge ChatGPT mod that does exactly that. And what's the first thing that humans do? Try and give Skyrim NPCs an existential crisis by telling them they're just in a video game, stuck in the Matrix.
The Matrix? Oh my, that's an interesting thought.
Which, surprisingly, they don't break character. Apparently, the sentient skill test failed. But you know, it got me thinking, maybe this is how the Matrix actually started. We're the ones putting AI into the simulations today, but if they're to copy human behavior, who's to say that the tables won't turn? And now, back to the news. Okay, so I know we just talked about Meta, but there's another thing that just dropped and I think it's worth talking about, as it kind of affects everything Quest related moving forward. Meta has introduced something called the Platform Integrity Attestation API. Basically, an optional system that developers can add to their application that will protect the app from a multiple of things, ranging from piracy protection to allowing for hardware-based bans for certain apps. It can also stop modifications of APKs or game files and protect sensitive data from being sent places they're not supposed to be. And well, yeah, that's kind of a mixed bag of things, really. Basically, it works by the API sending an encrypted token that is verified on a server, and if it doesn't check out, the app just won't launch. Now, how well this will actually stop piracy on the Quest? It probably won't. Nothing will. But it does make something like modifying files on an online game significantly harder. So, in a way, it's more like an anti-cheat than anything else. And I'm currently not aware of anything that has this platform integrity check yet, but I guess we'll start seeing it pretty soon. Next up, I gotta talk about these 3 awesome DIY projects, and I'll just blast through them so you're at least aware of them, because this whole section is just glowing with the peak of, if they won't do it, I'll do it myself energy, and I love that. So this headset takes the cake as the true Frankenstein of VR. Called the Hades Widebody, it's the most kit-bashed headset I have ever seen, and it's amazing. With an RPAR Steam VR tracker, basically Vive Pro displays, Gear VR lenses, custom eye tracking, face tracking, kit-bashed housing in a small form factor, well, sort of small, while also having about the same field of view as Valve Index. And all I can say is nice. Hilariously, when the creator was asked if they can build it for someone else, they said they are never building another one, as understandably it was a massive pain, but it's still really cool. Next is this awesome custom mixed reality headset using a Quest 2 based ultraleap hand tracking and some really cool 3D printing. This video popped up in my recommended, and he's got a whole walkthrough of the experience from planning it to finishing it, and it's really cool. And finally, good old Sadly It's Bradley. I love my Big Screen Beyond, I think just as much as he does, but he's still working to make it better. Him and a collaborator are working on a better flip-up hinge design that actually removes the facial interface to give you an even wider field of view than it gives you now, and of course moving it away from your forehead and face. Really cool, and links to all of that will be down below. Just wanted to spotlight some cool things. But now it's time for question of the week, and it's perfect considering what we just talked about. What can we, the people who love VR and have the power to influence it, do to help the industry, since many companies just aren't listening? And yeah, that's always kind of been a problem. That's why I was so shocked that Sony within a week totally changed their app off of my criticism. It was insane. But if there's one thing I can say, it's to never stop being loud about what you want or what you feel is right. But more importantly than that, to do it respectfully to the people around you. The last thing we need in the VR community is infighting and division or elitism. I hate that. So I'd urge the entire VR community to stay a community as long as possible. That's where our strength comes from. But that only works if you respect each other. I often see a lot of hate between PC VR and the Quest community, or PSVR people, or Reddit to YouTubers. Look, VR gets enough hate from everybody else. The last thing we need to do is divide people that just like VR, but have different opinions on it. Opinions are beautiful. It's what makes us all special and not just bots in Skyrim. But in terms of your direct question, I think having a strong community is number 1, but number 2 is to just build stuff. Don't worry about it being perfect. If you have an idea, just build it and knock some doors down. And I really don't mean this to be self-promo. I guess this is my own YouTube channel, so it makes sense, but I am about to launch an entire section of my Discord server that is dedicated to bringing people together to work on, talk about, and build all sorts of VR stuff, from open source projects to game development help, because, you know, we all need to help each other to do this. So hop in there. I think I'm gonna open it up today, actually, but I think this is a pretty good idea, as I think that server and my community too can serve as a launch pad to get you into, or for you to start your own communities that are way more specialized, and so you can build whatever you want. So yeah, that's question of the week. Make sure you leave your own down below, and I may just answer yours next. All the links, including my Discord server and Amaze VR and these DIY projects, will be in the description. And of course, thank you so much to my Patreon supporters for making this video possible. I couldn't do this without you. And don't forget to like this video if you loved it, subscribe if you want more of this, and hit that freaking bell if you just can't live without it. Much love, Thrill out.